when it's your favorite pusher of rocks uphill. Uh, and excuse me, I like today to talk about facing the absurd. What do I mean by the absurd? Well, typically when you talk about the existential concept of the absurd, you're typically talking about like two major conceptions of it. The first one is by Kierkegaard, who has a religious conception of it. It's just his way of describing, especially in the philosophical fragments, the irrationality of the Christian faith or faith in God in general, right? He said that it doesn't really make any sense logically speaking, but it's not about logic, and so it's absurd, right? You think about the ways in which no one alive today or in Kierkegaard's time knew Christ personally, right? And their testimony was, you know, put through how many layers of abstraction of people, like a game of telephone, right? And people are still trusting it. Um, I'm talking purely logically. I'm not trying to offend anyone. This is just his argument. Um, and he's like, well, it doesn't matter because faith is an entirely different concept from reason. It's absurd, and that's the whole point. It's meant to be irrational. Um, I mean, that kind of reminds me of Paul. I think in Romans or Corinthians, he said this be like, what good is faith in things that we see? Faith is about things that you don't see. Um, so that's one way to look at the absurd. The other um way to look at the absurd is in the way Albert Camus saw it, which essentially for him, yeah, it's not about the irrationality of God. It's about the irrationality of life in general, where, like, you know, just imagine. And I know something about this personally because I've been disabled since birth. Um, but I just want you to imagine, right? Let's say, you do everything right. You do everything that society expects of you. You go to good schools. You're a good person. You contribute to society. Um, and you work really hard, especially in this day and age. Get a house, get a car, get a wife or a husband, you start a family, right? And then that family grows, and then you attain generational wealth since you keep saving and you can retire. And let's say by the end of your life, you have, um, you have good standing in your community, you have good standing with the state, with all the social organs, right, of that keep society together or force you to conform depending on your opinion. But the thing is, right, life is rarely that simple, that straightforward, right? You know, let's say this person lost everything they had. They lost their job in a financial crash that was no fault of their own, or one of their kids kicked to the bucket, they passed away, right? And now, oh, he's he doesn't have all the things he had before. Our hypothetical person, right? or let's say his wife leaves him or whatever, or you know, any number of things, right? And which our are completely outside of our control. Um and yeah, I mean, that's absurd, right? Because we as humans, we think, oh, time is linear, things have causes and effects, and at least in the immediate term, let's say in our field of vision and in the interactions we have with our immediate social groups and family groups, sure. But Western man, especially, I feel like often forgets, and I talked about this in my video about how I was humbled at grad school, that, you know, things are going on around us. Um, other people have lives and they have just as complicated lives as we do. Even though it's kind of weird with social media, we have an unprecedented look at other people's lives. But the problem with that is that it's so often, specially curated, um to include mainly only the positive things. It doesn't show you the hardships. It doesn't show you the um the challenges of whatever a person is going through in their lives. Like for example, um I've often seen this with my friends in relationships of both genders where, you know, and I'm sure this is relatable to you guys too. Like, they'll get in a relationship, they'll change their status on Facebook and all of these other social media sites. They'll post loving photos on Instagram and stuff with the most poetic stuff. And then, like, barely a year later, those two people where you thought oh, they're gonna be together forever, for a long time or whatever, right? All of a sudden, um, they're not together anymore. And it's because of all the stuff that you don't see in in your social media links' lives, right? Um, and but that's very different to, going over to someone's house, catching up, shooting the you know what, shooting the dookie, and you know, because usually, especially if you're already kind of close or have met once before, people will be more disarmed. They'll be more likely to give you a fuller perspective. Obviously, not everything, but yeah, so we're kind of caught in that. We're kind of caught in that time where the absurd is seemingly ever present, but no one wants to face it in this like world of Uber connection. And I mean, you can go one of two ways. Um, I think in relation to this is you can again have the paradox of faith, accept the absurdity of faith and believe that everything will be okay because God says it, or you can have, and here's where I disagree with Camus. Camus says, oh, well, you should get through it, but imagine yourself happy. To be honest, I'm not sure if it matters if you're happy or not. as long as you get through it. Because, I personally don't think the point of life is to be happy. I'm not against pleasure, I'm not against being happy, but like, you know, the I really don't think the point of life is to make yourself happy. I think the point of life is to make others happy as much while doing as much as you can to make yourself happy, but like that often requires sacrifice, that often requires not being happy for a while. All of the best things to me um are worth much more than happiness, especially if they're directed towards a future goal, even if you may not reach it in the way that you personally imagine. Um, and but I still agree with him. What other way is there, um, except through the pain, except through the absurdity, right? What other, what other alternative do we have? Yes, you could unalive yourself. You certainly could do that, but it's like you're still not omniscient. You don't know if whatever challenge you're going through would have abated. And anyway, like more permanent challenges like my wheelchair, which for this point in time, and before you ask, no, I don't want to be fixed. No, I wouldn't have a surgery even if it was available to me. I'm a disabled person. I'm proud of that fact. Um, I don't need to be fixed. Um, Saying that people need to be fixed, um, erases society's work to become more accepting. And I do believe that society does have that moral responsibility to become more accepting of us. We should do what we can, of course. I've never not said that. I've always encouraged that in terms of physical, mental, and intellectual fortitude for my people. But yeah, I'm fine as a disabled man, even if people don't like it. Um, yeah, anyway, but with more permanent issues like that, like my handicap. Like, I mean, what is there to say? What do you want me to do? Just off myself? Because, sometimes I feel like a prisoner in my own bed, or because I can't stay up in my chair as long as I'd like to, or because I have this or that challenge relating to people. It's like I don't know. To me, and I know some people aren't as lucky to have the support of their family that I do, but leaving that aside, it's like, bro, you're alive. You're here right now. You're you're living, you're breathing, bruh. Like, is that not enough? Is that, and I'm not talking about, don't think about the future or the past right now. Just think about this moment, right? Like, think about what a miracle that is. I'm not saying you're special because we're pretty much more or less all alike. And, but what I am saying is that you're you in this moment in time right now. And like that's crazy, bro. And you have a way of communicating that like I am right now. You're a human being. And of course I know like there are a whole bunch of intersections of social problems and all that stuff, but let's just take it down to you for a second. That's really what I'm asking. Um, just be you, man. Love you, man. And I mean, I know it's hard. I struggle with it every day, bro. We live in a society that tells us that my life being as it is right now is worth less than lots of other lives. But you know what, man? F that. F that, bro. I'm sorry. You can like I'm gonna take my glasses off. They can look at these googly eyes, man. Look at them. Look. They'll have to face that when they're burning in. I mean, rejoicing in heaven. Anyways, guys, yeah, go out there. Don't even be happy. Just be you. Um, or sad or whatever. Just be, man. Just be. Just stay in that moment. All right, bye. See you.